Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pierce with Tri-City Equity Group, back for another episode. Today, I'm excited. I've got Michael Engram on the show. This is going to be fun. So it's going to be a little bit of a different direction than our normal show, guys, but we're excited to have Michael on the show and kind of hear what about his background. So just to key in a little bit, he's a 96 graduate of Warren G. Harding High School. After graduation, he took on the opportunity to further his academic career over at Sawyer School for Hospitality, Bethune-Cookman University for Business, and Oral Roberts University for Business and Divinity. So during his studies, he earned the opportunity to work in multiple disciplines for the Walt Disney Company, which is pretty cool, over in Orlando. And he later helped launch a national nonprofit in New Jersey for inner city boys. In 2013, he moved back to the U.S., to the continental U.S. from Hawaii. Obviously, I met Mike years ago when he was here in Hawaii. And what he did was he moved back to the mainland to make a positive difference in his hometown back in Warren, Ohio, where he did found Game Changers. So he's an executive coach there with Game Changers, and his goal and continues to be to create extraordinary leadership platforms that focus on the retention and graduation of high school athletes. After a decade's worth of impact, Game Changers has had an amazing opportunity to serve over 4,600 students nationwide, and he attributes his foundation to his faith, family, and football. So we're definitely we'll dive in a little bit with that. Definitely excited to talk with Mike today. Mike, welcome to the show.
Aloha. I only say that every now and then. I'm here in Midwest America, so if I'm doing it here, they're looking at me crazy, but it helps when I connect with someone back at the islands to be able to throw up the chakra and say aloha, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I know most of our listeners, of course, know we're based here in Hawaii, but they may be partnered with us in investment on the mainland and whatnot. So I always think it's a treat no matter what. You bring some of that aloha spirit.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was definitely welcomed there in Ohio, where I don't imagine that there's very many people from the island or have any representation from Hawaii there in Ohio.
I'm as good as it get.
Sure. Right.
I'm the expression of Hawaii, and I'm usually the go-to person whenever they say, oh, I'm going my anniversary or whatever. I'm going over to Hawaii. Well, which island and this, that, and the other. And then I get my list together of places they got to go eat, places they got to go visit, experiences, hike, the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? I feel like that could definitely be a side business for me for sure.
There you go. Just to kind of dive into some of our conversation, for those of our audience who may not be familiar with you, give us a little bit of your background. How did you get started? I read off, of course, just a snapshot of your bio, but I know you've had a background in different ways. Obviously, you've traveled and kind of spanned all across the U.S. Fill us in. Like, how did you get started in nonprofits? Give us a little bit of your background, student athlete, and your experience.
Sure. Again, I appreciate Steve for having me on, being able to connect with other like-minded business personnel. And at the end of the day, even as a nonprofit, it literally, all it is a tick on the box in regards to tax exemption. Other than that, the grind of business is definitely there. Having to wake up, having to perform, having to go out there, be your brand manager one day, the janitor the next, and everything in between. All those things definitely resonate with me. I just so happened to, when I had that fork in the road, transition my skill set over to nonprofits because of just my own personal calling that I believe is to be of service to others. And that may be in respect to those who might not have the skill set, or they might not know how to ask for that assistance. So for me, it was real important to be able to take that which I've learned from corporate America and be that bridge builder and be able to help other young people along the way. And yeah, so that was the why, in a sense of why I decided to jump into it. For me, myself, growing up, I always wanted to have someone or a program to kind of just help cultivate me into that much more of a man. Growing up, my parents, they split when I was around 13 years old. So at that young age, a lot of times you, especially as a young man, those are the times where you're finding out who you are physically, mentally, spiritually. And for me, it was just very necessary to try to grasp at a foundation and what that looked like. And my mom did a great job with keeping me into church. I would see my dad maybe on through the summers. But at any point in life, I believe everyone who is about growth looks for opportunities to increase their capacity. And thankfully, I was just in a good place where between church and family that I had that support system around me. And that's what ultimately what I wanted to do with Game Changers, especially in today's time where our young people are threatened with so many outside things that are coming at them in their success and their light and their brilliance and everything else about them that makes them unique, and a lot wanting them to be copycat mold images of someone else and whatever. And for me, I just wanted to be that beacon of light and at least lay the foreground for our young people to say that it's okay to excel. It's okay to strive for your hardest and do the absolute best you can do to strive for excellence, to be a good person at the end of the day. And that's essentially what I'm hoping that our young people are gauging from being involved with Game Changers. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that too. And I love that even just with you sharing right there, talking about being a bridge builder, because we need that so much. And I think the service that you're providing, like working for a nonprofit and establishing that, and we've had conversation kind of off camera, but just being able to provide that back to, like, let's say our youth, because what you're working with is like the next generation of people and the input that we've got that our culture is having in on them right now. Like, I don't like there's a lot of negativity out there. And so like we do really need, just to use your verbiage, that beacon of hope, like that light to be able to reach back to the generation that's coming up and to say, hey, look, you can be about more than what you see in your TikTok feed and your social media feed and whatever kind of the society and the culture says is cool for the moment. Because we both know in 6 months, it's going to be something completely different. And so even just providing kind of that stability to them, to these students who are coming up and trying to do something better with themselves. I love even on your board kind of behind you, like these are kind of some of the key points for Game Changers, right? Leadership, mentoring, service, academics. Like there's not enough of an emphasis on that kind of stuff. And for me, I'm working in the investing space, the real estate space, entrepreneur space. Like it's so important for them to be ingrained those values in, like I said, this next generation, right? Because you're getting them at what's the typical age that you're working with right now?
Yeah, high school student athletes. I wanted, and even with going and focusing on athletes, for me, it was twofold. Number one, I wanted to make certain that I was able to connect. Already there's an age difference. As soon as, the kids see my grade, they're saying, well, what year was this old man born? I think one of the crazy things I saw was like someone's social media reel, and they said, Mom, you were born in 1900. And I said, the audacity of that, like, and when they say 1900, but yeah, part of it is that I wanted to be able to create something where I could connect with the young people. So being able to, as far as being an athlete, those are transitional. Whether you're an athlete back in the day or you're an athlete today, there's still a certain work ethic that is required when you're trying to become the best version of you. So that was definitely one of the reasons why going after that demographic. And then the other part of it is that there is not one organization, there's not 100 organizations that can satisfy the needs of all of our young people. So I wanted to kind of pull that together to say, well, at the age of high school, this is where ninth grade across the US, at least within the last 5 years, was the grade where most of our kids were dropping out of high school. When we start looking at some of these negative statistics as teen pregnancy, drunk driving, things of that, those are happening in those teenage years. So to me, it's kind of like find that demographic. And that's why that 9th to 12th grade, and for me, it's easier to wow a young kid from ages 5 to 12 with warm fuzzies, and you could take pictures all day of them playing flag football and whatever. But at grades 9 through 12, these are the real conversations that need to be had. These aren't the easy, hey, take a picture and smile. No, these young people need guidance. They need a reality check and a reality talk at the same time, and met with empathy and with love as well. And so for me, it's not the easy road. It's me saying that we have to reach our young people before they feel like they're being thrown to the wolves because at the age of 18, many of them that don't necessarily have a support system, they're either getting kicked out of their homes, they're having to make that decision on their own of what's going to become next with my or happen next with my life. And I want to make sure that they know that there are adults here that care for their well-being and the matriculation as they go on to that next step and that next stage.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, I think it's easy. And I was experienced that too, right? Like I came from a broken family, broken background. And I'll be honest with you, if I was able to get plugged in with a solid mentoring group and that kind of deal at that age range, because for me personally, it also things derailed in that high school age range. So I mean, I 100% can attest to the power of even just the availability of that, just knowing that there's something out there. Hey, there's a cool uncle, right? Or there's a cool father figure or just a kind of a role model to go to, like, hey, can I just pick your brain? Obviously, you're going to teach them certain things. Like you're going to go into it with the mindset of like, all right, I'm going to teach you some business skills, some interview skills, some life skills, that kind of deal. But that turns into opening the door, right, for other conversations, just general life conversations. If a lot of the youth can feel like they've got somebody trustworthy to go to, they'll do that. And for those of our listeners, again, a little bit of a different show, but I'm 100%, I'm sure you can relate in some way, or somebody who has a need for some kind of a connection point to something like Mike's nonprofit, his organization. There's going to be local need no matter where you are. That may touch closer to home, or there may be a little bit of an arm's length. You might be saying, okay, well, hey, Steve, I haven't had that experience. Okay, well, guess what? Like, but I believe in that cause, and I see the value of that because, man, society is being degraded all around us. That's so visible. But we know that, okay, we got people out there like Mike making a difference on the local schools. He's an unsung hero, so to speak, right? Because it's as much we'd love to platform and kind of give some visibility to the organization. We need more of it. We really do, right? And I think most of us can attest to that. So yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, if we do have, like, let's say a local business, because most of our listeners are going to be entrepreneurs, business owners, what are some of the benefits they could see with some kind of a local partnership with a nonprofit? Because obviously there's a million nonprofits all over the place. Obviously, if you want to throw support, we want to support Game Changers, your organization. But what are some of the benefits they could see partnering with any local nonprofit or wanting to make an impact in their neighborhood?
Sure. So for me, and the reason why I moved back from beautiful Hawaii to here into Ohio, where our winters are nothing alike, nothing, I would take some rain and 50 degrees for my weather of a Hawaii winter over 0 degrees, snow and black ice any day. But nonetheless, it is really about finding your place and giving back to our communities or your respective communities. Communities are not going to get better on autopilot. You can't rely on the government. You can't rely on anyone else but yourself to be able to make a difference. And as an athlete, there's the crowd and the audience, or there are the players, those that are in the game. And so I liken it into, we need you on the field. We need you on the court. We need you in the pool. Whatever that sport is, we need you to be participatory in respect to putting your hand to the plow and not necessarily just talking about what should happen, but being able to be involved in giving back. And for some, it looks different. For some, with Game Changers, we look for time, talent, and treasure. If you can give your time and help with mentorship or something of that nature, wonderful. Come aboard. With talent, if you're an accountant and hey, you might have a nonprofit, I'm almost sure you have a nonprofit that could benefit from you being able to look at their financials for them. Because whenever we go to apply for different grants, they're asking for an audited version maybe of your books and things like that. And those things are expensive. And when I say expensive, I'm speaking expensive from those of us who are grassroots, who came from zero to nothing. I mean, Game Changers has been around now, thankfully, for 10 years, but still I debate, do I spend $1,000 to $1,500 for someone to do a version of our books? Or is that something where I could put towards a scholarship or where a young person could use this money right now? And so it's that ongoing battle back and forth. And then for your treasurer, there are businesses and their executives that are super busy, and they might not have the bandwidth to get out there and to be able to give the time because of the business and because of the family dynamics or whatever that is. Believe me, financially helping to make a nonprofit that much more stable with a monthly contribution, a quarterly contribution, does so much to being able to say that I can rest a little bit easier that night, and making sure that I have the ability to keep my eye on the vision and propel the, organization further and be able to have more impact. So those are some of the things where I look at the responsibility, to be honest, for those of us who are in the business world, to be able to give back and making sure that our young people are taken care of. Because as the great Whitney Houston song, the children are our future, whether you think so or not. Everyone's got, not to get morbid, but everyone's got a time clock and no one knows what that time is. So the best you can do is sow into other people so that your legacy is a reflection of those that are going to be around you, the impact that you've made into your community, your state, your country, and making sure that the ship is righted just a little bit more than when you were here.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And then even partnering with like local, let's say as a business owner, some of the benefits I know of for sure is, I mean, of course you get the tax benefits, like you'll be able to, you benefit from any gifts to nonprofit organizations, like if they have the proper credentials, which I know you guys do. But then also too, like I'm just thinking like as a business owner, like these are also future clients. So you want them to be, you want the local community, like you want your local market to be successful on their own, right? And so like if you're planting seeds, if you're giving back for the community, again, not that you do it out of overflow, do it out of abundance, but you can't help but to understand like that has like benefits long term, like reciprocity, laws of reciprocity, and just kind of giving, sowing seeds back into the community. Again, we don't do that. We don't give, let's say, to expect a return, but it's just how things work, right? So
Sure.
then just thinking of benefits to local business owners and whatnot about reaching back out to their local community, working with other nonprofits. But yeah, so I mean, maybe give us some, maybe if you have any stories of like some obstacles that you've overcome kind of along the journey. What are some challenges that you or maybe other nonprofits may be facing along your journey, and how did you overcome those?
Sure. So I'll say, even as a personal journey, in moving back here to Ohio, moving back here for a couple reasons. Number one, at this time, I've lived in 7 other states, and living in other states and just seeing dynamics of like living in New York City versus living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and everything in between, to the sunny sand beaches of Hawaii and down into Florida. So I've been a little bit of everywhere. But with that said, coming back here, sometimes it's very convenient for people to see you for who you were instead of who you are, right?
Mhm.
And I had to fight that battle in my mind, because getting the degrees, so on and so forth, I never wanted it to be look like I failed out there, so that's why I'm
Mm,
back. Versus
mm.
the complete opposite, that I lived a certain level of experiences. And now I believe with that, I can utilize those experiences to invest into our community to hopefully help another younger version of me to be able to go out there and accomplish. If I have lived in 7 states and visited 15 to 20 countries, maybe they can live into this many states and they can visit 30, 40 countries and just get out of your bubble. So I look at those opportunities, and that was definitely one of the things I had to kind of get over, was a sense of, I didn't want to feel like I was like a failure. You know what I mean? I didn't want to seem like I was living a lie of success, but yet being back here at home, moving back into the family home, just to kind of, do I spend $30 to $40,000 to put into a place of a house of my own? Or do I spend $30 to $40,000 into the infrastructure of the nonprofit and the business and getting it up and started and so on and so forth? So having that support system, even with my family, has helped out tremendously, because it's allowed me to take that that burden, right, of bills and everything that comes along with it, and then be able to utilize that time now to pour back into our young people, and to be able to expedite some proof of concept even a little quicker, rather than me being tied down with a lot of other things. I would say another thing that has definitely been a little bit of a challenge is that in your smaller communities, especially, there's the dynamics are different. The resources are a little bit different. Like, you don't have maybe a Fortune 500 company that's in your backyard. And if you do, like for myself, I have been gone for 16 years. And then when I come back, well, those relationships have been established, so on and so forth. So now I feel as I'm an outsider coming back home in a lot of instances. And so now having to start over and kind of prove yourself and things of that nature, those were some other challenges. So, and I say that to say that I believe that no matter if it's nonprofit or profit, I believe that there are some life lessons here that if you do decide to move back to your own hometown, or if you do decide to do things that are a little unconventional, don't be afraid to do them, because if the fear is that you don't want to be perceived a certain type of way, the truth of the matter is the biggest critic is you, and then anyone else outside of you. And if it is someone, guess what? Those are the people that I spoke about before. Those are the ones that are in the stands. They have not put their hand to the plow. They're good for critiquing on the sidelines, and they don't know what feels like to accomplish the degree of what you've done. So that's not an easy feat. Be proud in the accomplishments that you make. Even the small ones are still victories won. The setbacks are lessons learned, and you learn from them, and then you get your head back in the game and you pursue that next step the next day. As long as you've got breath in your body, that's an opportunity for your life to be turned around.
100%. No, I love that. I love that. And touching on a few different things there that you kind of mentioned. I love that for what you bring back to the community, and especially talking to like, let's say the younger people, that's confidence building for them, because they can see somebody who or not even looks like them, although sure, but somebody from their hometown. It's not like you're in this massive metro area where it's just like, okay, cool, I'm in New York City. Yeah, sure. It's easy to get away. Or like, I understand there's a lot of cultural differences and influence and all that kind of stuff. But you can go back to the local community and say, that's confidence building for the youth. Hey, well, maybe I can move out of state too. Right. Because having grown up in a relatively close community myself, that's a mental hurdle to go move somewhere else, to move to another city, or to move to another state, or you having come out here before, to move thousands of miles away across the ocean, which is a huge deal. Most people, like, that's too big of a mental obstacle to overcome. But guess what, guys? Like, there's likely potential. There is 100% guaranteed that there's opportunity in a different place than there may be in your local market. So a lot of times people don't see that. They need that kind of change of pace. They need somebody else to have gone as a scout ahead and say, yeah, no, let's take here. This is good land, right? Like this is a land flowing with milk and honey, right?
Right.
But without that, because nobody in their circle may have experienced that yet. Right. So you can bring that to them and say, well, no, there's a wide world out there. There's all kinds of opportunity out there. Just because we don't have that here in this city that we're living in, or this state that we live in, doesn't mean it's not out there. It is out there. You just need to kind of widen your circle, and you can bring that in a personal way to these young student athletes and give them a lifeline, which is great. And then I love your analogy too, just about, because I know you do work with athletes, not to be a spectator. I love that. I love that visual, because to me, like, that speaks totally to real estate. That speaks to entrepreneurship. Don't be a spectator just waiting in the stands, watching the game playing out on the field. Like, we get very accustomed to that. Like, if you've ever been to a sporting event or you're watching it on TV, it's very easy. Like, that's part of the entertainment. But man, you don't see the thrill and the experience of what it is to be that athlete on the field. Right. You want to be playing in the game. That's where the experience happens. It's one thing to be a spectator. We want to be on the field mixing it up. I mean, and just for those few hours on the field, how much time did you have to spend throughout the week prepping, training, pushing your body, pushing your mental limits? Like, so that, I mean, I think that's a huge reminder for those of us, of course, that are playing in the game of business, right? Or the game of entrepreneurship and investing, whatever else. Get out of the stands, you guys. I mean, it's awesome to watch me and Mike here, who are players on the field. It's easy to watch us and kind of glean from our experiences playing on the field, but we want you to not be spectators, right? You get to watch us, you get to hear us, but get on the field, mix it up, right? Like, go out and make the mistakes. Go out, you may get bumps and bruises, but I can tell you the experience down here on the field is going to be so much more beneficial for you in your life, and the benefit that you can pass on to others. Right. So no, I love that analogy. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
One of my pet peeves that I've learned, I want to say, since I graduated high school, it was the woulda, coulda, shouldas. And
Mm.
that definitely been any and every time that happens to me, I try to make sure that I don't live in a life of woulda, coulda, shoulda. There's nothing sadder than saying that, man, I really wish I would have, or I should have taken advantage of this opportunity, or I could have, but I didn't. Well, why didn't you? There are some things where life has its way and it's beyond your control. If you're maybe taking care of an ailing parent or something of that nature, like, or for whatever reason. But the truth of the matter is that with a certain level of discipline, whether that's financial discipline or setting your goals or what have you, you have the capacity to do so much more than you're doing if you stretch yourself. I believe that also a part of that is trust in God, trust in yourself, and then trust in your village around you. Having trust in those three areas definitely equips you that much more. Going out to Hawaii was a faith walk. Part of it is that people, especially 10 years ago, said Hawaii is one of the most expensive places in the world. Well, in the United States. And that was definitely a perception, of course, like New York City and a few other places in Jersey and so on and so forth. But the thing is that I said to myself, I'm not going to allow someone else's fear to dictate the future that I want to have, even if it's not my end goal. I'm not going to allow it to stop me from at least attempting to go out there. So I moved out there with two other guys that I worked at the Cheesecake Factory with. We all transferred out there at the same time. We lived in a hotel room together for 1 month. And then after that month, we all ended up doing our own thing. And I ended up staying out there for 3 years. But just think that if I would have allowed for fear to just kind of eat that belief up, and for me not to have made that opportunity, that jump, here I wouldn't have experienced a portion of my life that I'm so glad that I've been able to experience, meet great people like Steve and a few other close friends that I have now that I could go and sleep on the couch whenever I need to back in Hawaii. But
Oh,
don't allow fear to control your future, man.
no, I love that. I actually really, really enjoy that. And you're going to get this too. Like guys, if you're listening to this and you're just thinking about, let's say, venturing out, maybe you're trying to start a new business, right? Or you want to get started in real estate investing, or because that's a lot of our listeners. It's like you're 100% you're going to hear somebody to say, wow, that's too risky. Oh, you can't do that. Right. It's like, well, why would you buy something out of state? Right. Like, oh, that's a scam. I heard about that before. Right. And it's like, it's not saying, hey, don't listen to wise counsel. Right. Don't seek other people, don't seek out wisdom from other people who are further down the road from you. Right. But don't let something that's they have fear about, don't let that infect you, because it's going to rob you of, just to your point, Mike, that's going to rob you of the experience, the contacts, the potential life that's out there waiting for you. So don't let them project their fear, their limiting beliefs onto you, because then that becomes your ceiling, right? And that's very, very common for people who don't come from a family, let's say, that has an entrepreneurial background or is willing to take risks, right? I'm genuinely curious what we're producing right now in our generation, or this generation, what they're growing up, like what the next generation is going to look like. Right. So like one of the things, of course, right. And this is where an organization like yours is so powerful. It's like, well, not only do you want to focus on, like, let's say that helping them with their academics and providing them leadership skills and providing them with just having that mindset of being in service, but you also get to bring in that life experience of like breaking boundaries, or like breaking those limiting beliefs, because you don't have them. You get to come in and you get to share, instead of it just being only one-to-one, you can be one to many. And that's super, super impactful. So I love that. I love that about what your organization is doing, and what you can do to our listeners, what you can do as an individual. Don't take for granted your experience and how you can shape and help others to shake off those limiting beliefs, and to be mindful for yourself too. Watch your words. Like don't be the one that has the limiting beliefs and kind of infecting others with that too, right? To break out of that comfort zone to share that. So yeah, no, that's really good. Well, Mike, this is the time of the show where we transition a little bit what we call our fire round, just a little bit more kind of rapid fire, a little brief Q&A. Is that something you're up for?
Sure, absolutely.
Right on. What is the first question? What is the best book that you recommend for our real estate people? That's usually Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But do you have a book that you recommend, maybe from a nonprofit or from business or from whatever? It can be from any different segment or field.
Sure. So I have read, of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and I'll just kind of notate to that. I do believe that that's a really good book to read. Honestly, again, profit versus nonprofit aside or whatever,
Hmm.
look at the understanding just of perception of someone, I believe allows you to kind of evolve for two reasons. Number one, the world is so much bigger and it's so much richer when you can appreciate someone else's perspective off of the way that they do it. Not necessarily saying that you agree with it, but being able to actually just understand the way that they come, the way that they problem solve. I believe that that has lent itself to myself to be able to have a level of patience and engagement. And there are richer conversations that can come from it if everyone takes down their guard, that allows for them
Hmm.
to perceive life through someone else's life and their livelihood. So I believe that book, honestly, I remember reading that probably around 15 years ago, and it's definitely one that I keep nearby as well.
All right. The next question, what would you consider your superpower to be?
Probably listening, to be honest, listening and then going into critical thinking. I'm a visionary. I believe if a superpower was equated with gifts, I believe that that would be a God-given gift that God has given me to be able to give vision and set it and then be able to put that together so now that we can put a strategic plan together about tackling. So anything in the business world or whatever, I automatically like other than this right here at my office, I said, and I used to have it, I just moved it downstairs, but it was a huge whiteboard, probably 6 feet by 4 feet type of deal. But I look at how people have whiteboards as a wall in their office. And that to me is like, I'll mastermind in a moment. I'll throw a bubble up there and get colors. And I feel like it's an art class, but just the line out to come out of me, vision is definitely one for me.
Awesome, man. Definitely a superpower. Not everybody has it. There's a lot of technicians in the world, or a lot of people who have different skill sets. But that's the beauty of jumping in and being a part of organizations and different groups. Like everybody can kind of put together their strengths, which is awesome. All right, next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career thus far?
Honestly, the biggest and probably my hardest at the same time was no one owes you anything. And that one was because, especially with me working with youth, that I thought that I would have had so many people champion
Mhm.
coming on board and helping. Because why? Because whenever I was out of town and I would read maybe an occasional Facebook or what is going on with these youth? There's nothing for the youth. There's nothing for the. And then I get back and all it is a lot of talking in a lot of areas, not everyone, but my point being is that I had to understand that this was, and I had to accept that I believe that this was a call for me and the call is my responsibility. So no matter how much support that I would have loved to have gotten from former athletes who are now in business or those who care about the kids or so on and so forth, at the end of the day, this is about your call. So know what it is that you want to do. I believe that that's definitely one of the things that's something that will allow you to be really frustrated with life as you living a life that you never wanted to live, only to get to the end and the person or persons that have put you into that box, they're no longer there, and you're holding yourself in a box that you were never meant to be in. And there was a
Mm.
life that ran parallel on the timeline where you were supposed to be and have so much more impact in the world, but you never were able to be that person because you were something for someone else. I know I
Oh,
detoured on that one, but
no, that's powerful.
yeah, that just came to me as I was thinking about owning
That's
your own
powerful.
home. Yeah.
No, that's great. And that's great. And that's something important. I mean, for all of us to remember, like nobody owes you anything. And looking at from the investing side, it's one of those things like where it's like, okay, if your jobs, let's say offer like pensions or like any kind of guaranteed retirement, like I'm not anticipating, let's say social security to be there when it's time for you and I to retire kind of in that age range. So it's like, okay, well, I got to set that up for myself. And that may be a wake up call for some of our listeners, but it just goes back to your point that like, hey, no one owes you anything. So like take on that challenge, like to go out and create something for your own. You want to make an impact in the community? You can do it. You want to start a business? Go and do it. Don't live a life that you're going to, just like you mentioned, you're going to end up at the life. You're going to end up at the end of having lived out a life that wasn't the vision that you wanted. it wasn't the dream that you wanted. So no, that's great. That's super powerful. Well, if our audience wants to reach out to you, they want to connect with you, they want to support you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, have a conversation, or maybe check out more about what you guys got going on?
Sure. Check it out our website, wearegc.org, WEAREGC for gamechangers.org. And that splash page there, it'll give you 3 different segments. The first segment is all about athletes and that which we are doing. So say, for instance, coming up this Saturday, we have our leadership summit at one of the universities. And in that portion, we have like the CEO of the airport coming, who used to be a former athlete. Well, all of these people used to be former athletes, the presidents of construction companies, the assistant general manager of the Browns is going to be there. Someone from the US Olympics is going to be there. And just rich people, because I wanted to make sure that platform was our athlete. Just because you don't make it necessarily get that D1 scholarship or make it to the pros, it doesn't mean that you can't transition that same skill set that we learned as athletes over to the front of the office and be just successful without the injuries, but you still get to go to every game for free. So you might be a few million short, but you're still having a successful life. And I wanted our young people to see that. So that type of programming is what we do in that first tab of our leadership summit, and going to giving scholarships, taking them to pro sports experiences at the SBs and so on and so forth. That second tab there is workforce readiness. And so we run a cohort of just the senior class, and we have businessmen and women come in, and we do everything from mock interviews to resume building to just building a network, understanding what that looks like. Also, so that they can understand when I'm going to college that you have a little more focus, because college is running on average anywhere from 15 to 25,000 for a decent college. So you figure now colleges are students are in college anywhere from not 4 years and out, but sometimes 5 years, sometimes 6 years. So what does that look like, being amassed with $100,000 to $150,000 in debt? The last thing that you want to do is take on courses that don't serve you well. And so what we do in that workforce readiness is we bring people from the real world that talks about their industries and the different fields. I mean, I worked for Bath and Body Works when I was in college, doing stock boy and stuff like that. But I didn't realize that this is a $1 billion company up under another brand, limited brand with Victoria's Secrets and stuff like that. And so these types of things, the kids, and we did too. We went to the mall just to kind of mess around and have fun and hang out. But you're literally walking through billions of dollars of companies' equity and so on and so forth there. And so we try to get their mind set on workforce readiness, what they need to do to be prepared for that as they get ready to transition. And then the third tab there is about me, with my opportunities to come out and do coaching and speaking to young people and just try to get them those experiences that we've shared today between you and I, and seeing how we can get them on a track that best fits their calling and what it is that they want to do. But all of that and much more is on our website, wearegc.org, or if you're on Instagram, GC, the new athlete, GC for Game Changers, the new athlete. You can follow us there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for hopping on and kind of sharing with us your passion, your vision for Game Changers. And gosh, I hope I've taken a bunch of notes here from our conversation, and hopefully I know it's been of value to our listeners as well. But I really appreciate you coming on to the show. And guys, make sure that you're reaching out to Mike, connecting with him, picking his brain. If you guys want to support, go check out the site and to see all that they've got going on. But awesome. Thanks so much. Great catching up with you. And we'll circle back with you here in the future.
Thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate it. But big time, beautiful job you're doing here, your platform, your family. You're definitely, as I try to hope that I'm a beacon of hope to our young people for Christian businesses, as you definitely set a standard on providing this voice and this opportunity for other like minds to be able to share in this avenue is amazing. And just the thing, 10 years ago, we were both serving at the Cheesecake Factory. But the thing that I love from that to where we are now is that we've always been in a place of service to others. And that's where we are today, just different fields.
Awesome. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's come a long journey. All right. Appreciate it, Mike. Have a great one.
All right. Thanks. Aloha.
Wow. All right. Awesome episode with Michael Engram. over at Game Changers, a nonprofit based in Ohio, working with student athletes. Michael's a student athlete himself. And so he wants to go back and give back and serve his community, help the youth that's coming up to understand that there's, for one, for the athletes, there's more beyond sports, but also too, just to be able to give back to the community, serve back to the community in the place where he's from. So yeah, awesome conversation. Make sure that you go back and take a listen to the episode. He gave some awesome advice there, life experience. And then guys, of course, if you guys are interested in connecting with us here locally, go to tricityequity.com to learn more about our investing and how you can connect with us. If you want to meet up with us in person, come to one of our monthly meetups, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We'd love to shake your hand, put a face to the name, and connect with you locally. So we have those every month. So just check us out on Facebook or Bigger Pockets. You can find us on any of those platforms, Honolulu Multifamily and More. Then, of course, too, make sure that you're making plans to attend the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. It's coming up quick, July 10th through the 13th, out of the beautiful Four Seasons. You can connect with other local or other like-minded entrepreneurs, investors, business owners, people who are just working out to try and be better, to better themselves, better the people around them. Make sure that you're making plans to attend. It will be life-changing for you. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. We'll see you on the next episode. Go out, take some action, and we'll catch you on the next one. Aloha.